This is episode 214 of the Focused Mindset Podcast. We all know there's more than one way to look at the same situation. But if you have everybody in a room and they experience something together and then separate them and have them tell it back, you'll get 5 different stories. What in the world is up with that is because our mind will focus on what's important to us in the moment, and each person's an individual. But today, we're going to lean into our own narrative and our own mindset, because I've discovered in such a real way that how we choose to remember the very precious moments in our life not only affects our memory, but affects the stories that we tell and how we share back what's happening to us. Ultimately, it affects the people around us in our communication. So we're going to get into all of that in just a moment. But I also want to invite you to follow this show if you aren't already. It's a great way for us to be able to know that we're going to have this special time together to fine-tune our mindset to be more solution-focused, hope-centered. And when we lean into the hope in our life, we're getting rid of so many of the toxic things that drag us down. So I hope that you can walk with me in my journey to be more solution-focused as I share the lessons that I've learned in life. And let's not waste any time with this intro. We have things to talk about. Let's get started. This is the podcast where we build strong connections and have amazing conversations using the solution-focused approach. I'm Cher Kretz. I'm a school counselor and a speaker and life coach. For far too long, I lived my life thinking I needed to have all the answers. But now I realize that giving out hope is far more important than giving out advice. And when we come together here, we'll learn to take our thoughts captive and focus on what's most important, so we can make an impact on this world and be the person we were always meant to be. To learn more, head over to cherkretz.com. That's CHERKRETZ.com. Or hop over to Amazon to look up 30 Days to Higher Hopes. Hello to all of my friends listening to this podcast. And I do say listening because we're doing a little bit of a flashback today and doing an audio-only podcast. I do these every once in a while when I just feel like hopping on the microphone and just talking to you wherever you're at. But I have gotten used to putting my video on most of the time. So there's lots of people, though, that really prefer the audio, and I love that you're here. But I also invite you to join me over on YouTube, because usually you can catch my podcast on video. It's great to have an opportunity to have my podcast over on the YouTube channel officially and also on Audible. So there's a few more places that you can hear this podcast. And I've learned a lot of lessons recently. And in order to illustrate the lessons that I've learned about how I remember my narrative, I'm going to tell you 2 different stories. The first story is about the time that I took my daughter to look for shoes for her homecoming dance. Really recently, as a matter of fact, we went to the mall and we had a goal in mind, and that goal was to find shoes for homecoming. And we went there, and I thought, if I was in the mood, hey, I'd want to be there maybe all day, but no. I kind of felt as though I'd rather be chilling at home on my Saturday after a busy week at work. And so we sawed off looking for shoes. In the first store, Bella said that she has a particular shoe that she's looking for. It was a brand of Adidas, and it's very common that a lot of the girls will wear tennis shoes with their super duper nice dress. And I knew that part, but she had a particular one in mind. And I said, Bella, if you stick with only that one and you only look for that one, then we're going to be here forever, because once you don't find it, we'll have to go look for your second one. She said, Mom, no, this will be fine. This will be great. So we went to our first store that was outside the mall, and she quickly walked through the store and didn't find anything. And then we went to our second shoe store in the mall, and then our third, and then our fourth. And pretty soon we had walked all the way from one side of the mall to the other in the downstairs. So we went up the escalator and walked to the upstairs. And we went into all of the different shoe stores and looked. And Bella could not find the Adidas that she was looking for. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be my Saturday. And I said, come on, Bella. You need to look at your standards differently. You need to change your vision. And she did adjust her vision, and there we went to look for a little broader perspective of shoes that she might like. And we started downstairs once again, and every single store we walked in and out of, half hour turned into an hour. And then we went up the escalator and walked down the other side, in and out. And then she gets sidetracked with friends. And then she comes back to me. And then we walk in and out. And my husband calls and I say, pray for us. If we ever find a shoe, it'll be amazing. And Bella's frustrated because she's late to her friend's house by this point. She's saying, I don't even know if I should go to this dance. And I said, oh, we bought the ticket. You're going, even if you wear your normal shoes. And then there they were. Some pink shoes, pink little tennis shoes that were just right. And they had her size. And she tried them on. And they were perfect. I knew they were perfect. But she sat there looking at them and she was just thinking, they're not what I wanted. They're not what I envisioned. And then she said, fine, let's get them. We got in the car and got out of that mall, finally. My second story is a story of me taking my daughter to get shoes for homecoming. No, you are not accidentally snapping to about a few minutes earlier. This is also that story. And on this day, it was so hot outside. So hot outside, and I thought in my mind that there's no place I would really rather be than to spend a day with my daughter. She's always so busy. And so we head off to get shoes. And in the first place we went, I reminded her that, if you don't look at all the different shoes, then you are going to be going in and out of shoe stores without success. And she said, no, Mom, it'll be fine. It will be fine. And in that moment, even though I was worried about how long we might be there, I also thought about the time with my daughter and how precious it is. So off we went to the mall, where it was really cool inside that mall. And it was a relief from the terrible heat outside. So we went into one store and another store, and we walked together all the way down the very, very first the first floor. And I had thoughts of times that I went to that exact same mall and shopped for my own shoes for my own dances and when I was in high school. And then I'm there with my daughter, looking so mature and grown up with such a specific shoe in mind. And I had to smile as she walked in and out. And it didn't surprise me at all that these very popular Adidas were not in the stores. And we walked all the way to the end and then up the escalator and then down the other side. And wow, that was a lot of steps. I'm so glad I was able to get my steps in, right? It's better than being lazy at home. And we walked the mall again. And then we went up the escalator and we're at round 3. And I can say that Bella did adjust her mindset. And she broadened what kind of shoe she was going to get out of necessity. She was feeling a little anxious because she was late. And I was feeling a little anxious, but also in the back of my mind, treasuring the time that I was spending with her. And then all of a sudden, something caught her eye, and she realized that her boyfriend was also there shopping for homecoming. And I watched from across the mall because she had walked off in another direction a little bit, as they caught each other's eye and they saw each other and they had a moment and a quick peck on the lips, and then off they went to go shopping in their separate places. And then she saw a couple other people from school, and it was hilarious to watch her kind of snap out of that shopping with mom mode. And then we went on our way. And it was all the way back at one of the first stores that we had been in where we saw a pair of pink shoes. And I thought, have mercy, this better be the one. And my husband called and said, wow, you guys are still at the mall. And I said, pray for us. I'm hoping we find shoes before this mall closes. And sure enough, the pink shoes fit. And honestly, they were the exact color of her dress. I knew they were right. And really, she knew they were right. Honestly, they probably were better than the Adidas that she's probably going to end up ordering online. As we walked back to the car, we took a moment to stop and get her a smoothie. And I quickly bought a purse because, hey, I deserve to buy something too, right? And we laughed and listened to music as we drove her to her friend's house. And I didn't see her for the rest of the night. What a great moment. Now, with those two stories, which one is more true? They're both true. They both happened simultaneously, exact same time. Those negative things of saying, when are we going to get out of here, were living within my brain at the same time that I was thinking about how much I'm treasuring that time with my daughter. My feet were hurting from walking up and down the mall in these itty bitty flip-flops that I wore. At the same time, watching her be her best self as she hunted down these shoes, and then having to compromise when she couldn't get them. It's up to me which of those two stories I take with me. It's up to me which one I focused more into in that very moment. I had to be very deliberate to lean into the one that will help me have the mindset that I truly want to have of gratitude and acceptance of where I'm at and caring. An attitude that helps me focus on what is the most true, but also the true version that I want to hear. Because both of them were true. So often, as a counselor and even as a coach, I hear the stories from two different people. The same exact story of something happens, and I'm so intrigued by how very different two people can recall the very same thing that happened. And I've learned to honor both and realize that both of those are true. They're just looking at it from a different lens. And this is something that I was reminded of at the mall. Because honestly, I did start off with some pretty icky thinking. My mindset wasn't in a great place. I was looking for a reason for things to not go well at the beginning. I was comparing to other times that I've been at the store with my daughter. And of course, this isn't the first time that she's had one specific thing in mind. I was wishing that she had thought about what shoes she was going to wear back when we had got the dress. So this all wasn't so last minute. Human things that, of course, we're all going to think about when we're going out shopping and going about our day. And I had to shake myself out of focusing on that. And I started out at the first store actually complaining to my daughter and kind of telling her, oh, you better not do this or we're going to be late. And something happened as we pulled out because it was like outside the mall and I was in my car and I thought, what am I doing? Am I about to ruin this trip? Because I know pretty much that what I said is most likely the thing that's going to happen. So what? Am I going to be right and spend all my time saying, I told you so, I knew we weren't going to find these shoes? Or am I going to live in gratitude in the moment that I am here with my daughter? And even though both of those narratives that I shared were going on simultaneously in my brain, the side of me that was saying, oh, my feet hurt, when is this going to be over? And the side of gratitude. I deliberately chose the side of gratitude to lean in on as much as I could. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do, and it's why I knew when I was thinking today about what I was going to talk to you about that we needed a moment to talk about this. Because it's easy for us to understand why 2 or 3 different humans would tell a story differently based on, I don't know, maybe even their alternate thoughts of how things might go even completely changes a story from the truth. But we don't think that, could we possibly do that in our own mind? Oh, yes. Yep, we can actually take the truth that happened and remember the version that's the most toxic. And then as we retell it to ourselves, we cement it in. I actually know a person that often practices retelling stories right after things happen. And I'm close enough to this particular individual where I've witnessed being with them and then hearing them retell the story and thinking, whoa, that wasn't how it happened. But from that moment on, that's how it happened to them. They remember that as if it was truth. I believe that they would pass a lie test because they retold it so fresh in their mind that it was true. So we have to be so careful with our own memories, so careful that we're remembering them in a way that honors who we really want to be, how we really want to remember things. There are some versions of what has happened that are kind of toxic to our future. Really retelling that version only cements in the negative. If we're looking for the bad, we'll see it. And then if we think on the bad that happened, we'll remember it. And then if we retell that same story through that lens, you have other ears that are hearing that. And maybe that just colors their vision of you to say, oh, wow, they just really have an unhappy life, or they always are talking about the bad things happening. But it could be even worse. The things you say could not be taken as complaining. It can be taken like, wow, this person doesn't like being around me. When if I was to retell that first version over and over in front of my daughter, she'd be like, yeah, she didn't even want to go shopping with me. She hated being there and wished she could leave. I don't want her to remember that. I don't want her to have the thought that that shopping trip was a big fat bummer. I want her to remember that we finally found the shoes that looked so adorable on her. And I'm hoping that it will fade from her memory the very first part when I was just, getting ready for things to go bad. But she's going to have both those things also in her mind. And I hope that she will lean into the narrative that will help her have the most healthy mindset. I hope that I can be an example of that to her. That when she hears me retell a story of somebody, when she was with me and she hears me retell the story and she knows all the ups and downs that happened, that she hears me retell it through a lens of gratitude and the things going as healthy and great. If there is anything good, pure, beautiful, wonderful, that she sees me thinking on these things and she knows that I am because I'm recounting it that way. I'm retelling it that way. I'm cementing that in my brain and I'm making it even more of a reality by saying it out loud. Yes, I am practicing this. And I invite you to practice it with me. In this next week, as you're going about your day and you have those 2 different thoughts going on, maybe 3, maybe 4 different narratives, choose which narrative leans into that gratitude place that helps you have a focused mindset on what is going to help you be the best version of yourself and be helpful to the people around you. Can you do that today with me and see what a difference it makes in this week to come that's sure to have ups and downs and disagreements and times when we're let down? It's not to say that we shouldn't be real about those things either, because there's a time to ponder the things that are hurtful to us and journal about it and maybe write a poem about it. And if we sort out our thoughts before we just blurt out whatever version we want, then chances are when we do talk about it, it'll come out the way we want to. And we can leave out some of the parts that are just unnecessary and complaining. I also want to encourage all of us to even think about when we're talking to the people that we're closest to, that are kind of like the people that we vent to, the people that are our safest. And we're thinking, oh man, this is the person that I don't have to be thinking about all this stuff. I can just say what I want. Even with those people, just practice a little bit of understanding from their point of view, from what they see and hear. Because you don't want them to also be thinking, wow, this person who I love is really unhappy. And really, you're not unhappy. You just feel like they're such a safe person that you can just tell them whatever. Do that venting with that person you love, but then also be a listener and also love them enough to share with them the things that went well, the things that you loved about, I don't know, whether it be your job or parenting as it is, which is a hard job. It's a lot of ups and downs. I have a friend that recently had a little baby. I mean, hey, when you're staying home and things went terribly, you got to share that with your spouse. You've been through a lot that day. But then remember the moment that you smiled. Remember the moment that warmed your heart with love, and share how that made you feel. See, you can choose to do that. One does not take away from the other. Both of them are true, and both of them are things that you've experienced. But even with our closest people, we could choose our narrative, and we can choose how we communicate. And that really is being solution-focused, because a lot of what I do when I'm counseling in a solution-focused manner is I'm truly helping them uncover a version that they may have forgotten, a version that still exists of the life that they're living and the things that they're going through and their possibilities for the future, and even their possibilities for success that may have been drowned out by negative self-talk, or maybe even talk from other people saying, you're not enough, you're not going to make it. And then all of a sudden, through a conversation, a simple counseling conversation that is solution-focused, they're able to see a different side of things. They are able to say, wait a minute, there is another way to look at this that's actually equally true. And they begin to experience life differently. We can all experience life differently. Simply put, we can make today amazing. And I hope that that's exactly what we go out and do. Cherish our memories. Lean into the ones that are precious and wonderful. Allow the other ones to be in its place. Reject the ones that are toxic and unnecessary in our life. And let's live our life solution-focused. As we get on our way, don't forget to check the show notes. You know that I keep some really great information there. I do have a special going on for a couple more weeks if you're listening to this in September, for the very best deal on coaching that I put out all year long. I can't believe how crazy nuts I am to even do it, to be honest, but it's a great deal, and you can check the link in my show notes for that. But really, anytime you can reach out and share with me some of your wins. If you have nobody else to tell, I'd love to hear. And you can email me at share@thefocusedmindset.com, or check everything out that we offer over at sherkretz.com. And don't forget, we have 30 Days to Higher Hopes, the first of its kind journaling book for people who are choosing to be hope-focused and solution-focused in their life. That's on Amazon right now. And wow, our time flew by today. It's time for us to get going. So until next time, live solution-focused. Thank you so much for joining me. But wait, before you go, don't forget to check the show notes. That's where you'll find all the places you can follow me on social media, and just, it's the way we keep in touch. And I have a newsletter called Hope Notes, And if you hop on cherkretz.com, you'll see in the menu bar, basically, it'll tell you how to get in that. And I'm going to have some really great little tidbits that I want to share. Whenever it comes up, that's where that happens. And honestly, the people that get my Hope Notes also get coupons and different stuff from my products as they come up. So I'd love to have you there, especially if you're thriving to be more solution-focused in your life. And if you're interested in joining a challenge that's going to help you with your communication, join the free 3-day conversation challenge. It's free right now. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it that way, but I want to see you there. So it's time for us to get going. Until next time, live solution focused.